If you have struggled financially in the last several months due to inflation, chances are that you have had to make some tough decisions as the types of products and brands that you still purchase. The question of loyalty with brands is one that companies think about on a daily basis and certainly has been challenged over the last couple of years because of the pandemic and the impact of inflation. But what does it mean moving forward, and how should companies think about that component of loyalty? Blake Morgan is a customer experience futurist and also columnist for Forbes. Blake, pleasure to have you with us today. Thanks for your time.
Hi, it's very good to be here.
Thank you. Should we or the companies themselves be surprised that when you have these components, and I'll kind of framework it under the larger topic of pressure, that brand loyalty can take a hit?
Yeah, 100%. Brand loyalty died during COVID because customers no longer had the luxury of doing business just with the brands they always did business with. They had to think about survival. They had to think about how they could just get through the day and not get sick. And customers have been through a lot. So once we saw the sort of end of COVID, so to speak, now customers are ready for happier horizons. And then we see inflation and so much financial struggle. People are being laid off. We just saw a few banks basically implode. And so customers are just exhausted from the years of confusion, uncertainty, and change they've endured. And so companies have to compete on the only thing that makes them different, which is customer experience. So how are brands obsessed with making customers' lives easier and better? How are they reducing stress for customers? Every product out there is just a commodity. There's a million versions of the same thing. What makes a brand different is their ability to go out and do something above and beyond for the customer. And customers are hypersensitive now. Like I said, they've been through so much. They're ready for brands that deliver on their promise and make their life better.
Well, and part of that, I guess, is the expectation that the consumer has of the company that makes the brand. And there's obviously been more and more conversation around some of the actions that companies take in a variety of areas. So they are beholden really to new and higher expectations of the consumer, especially in the last, I guess, let's say 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I think that some brands really get it, and they're doing a great job of competing on experience. And other brands are just nickel and diming customers, still continuing to put hidden fees in their products and services. They're asking customers to basically do acrobatics to simply transact or do customer service. And other brands like the Peloton.
Blake Morgan is a customer experience. Blake, we lost you there for a second. You stopped. We lost you on Peloton, so let me have you pick it up from there.
Yeah, so Peloton, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, these are the brands that compete on experience. They use digital to reduce stress for customers. They love customers. They welcome the challenges that come with dealing with customers, and there can be challenges. They embrace problems, and it's really a mindset. It's called customer experience mindset. What's interesting about what's happening now is we can look back in history and look back to 2008. Of course, it's not the exact same, but during 2008, the financial crisis, some research was conducted by a guy named Dr. Thomas Gilovich out of Cornell University, and he wanted to see if people got more satisfaction from things, products, or experiences. And what he found is that people over time get more satisfaction from investing in experiences, because experiences, you have memories and you can always think back to these wonderful things, and products lose their value over time. And as people, especially millennials, saw their parents and grandparents lose their life savings, their homes during the financial crisis of 2008, they realized, oh gosh, life is short and I can't take these items that I bought with me to the grave. we've got to invest in what's happening here and now, in experiences and time with our loved ones. And again, we saw that during COVID, where consumers realized life is so short. Who cares about the new car or the diamond ring? I want to go on a vacation and experience all this beautiful planet has to offer with my loved ones. And so again, we're looking at more focus and investment in the experience economy. So this is happening even though inflation and everything else, people are still investing in experiences over things, and they're buying expensive products less and less. They're just buying the cheaper version. And so that's a big trend happening as well.
And you talk about the experience economy out there, but I think you can expand this, well beyond that. And when you think about, some of the decisions that, on a lower level that people are having to make in the grocery store these days, the types of butter that they buy, that, buying that steak or not buying that steak. This is obviously a challenging element on a variety of different levels that consumers are really having to focus on greatly right now.
Yeah, and almost a year ago, the average cost of 12 eggs was about $1.89. Around now, average cost is $4.44. And so there's been huge price increases in groceries, clothing, personal care, office supplies, pet products, non-prescription drugs, home improvement, on and on. And so people are saying, oh, maybe we don't need the organic apples that cost $10 for a small bag. Maybe we're just going to go with the pesticide version because I don't want to see my bank account dwindle so low. And this is scary. And so families are really having to make these hard decisions. And the research supports that 61% of Americans are stressed about money. 44% of Americans have skipped meals to save money. 44% of millennials have skipped meals to save money compared to 30% of baby boomers, according to research from a real estate data company called Clever. And so these are really scary things that we're seeing as a society right now with customers' wallets being strapped. And so businesses are having to pivot. Many of them are just discounting their products like crazy. In my opinion, discounting your products it's just a race to the bottom. What you can do is differentiate on experience. So you need to add something extra to create an experience around your product and add value to the customer's life.
And you noted in the piece that you did recently for Forbes that it's actually some of the younger generations that are kind of leading the way in some of these decision processes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the younger generations are sick of the consumerism that we've seen, the obsession with buying, nice cars, nice houses, nice wallets. Again, they care about experiences. Gen Z cares about experiences. They're worried about the planet. They care about sustainability. They care about social causes. And so the world is changing. The landscape of consumerism is definitely changing. And that's why it is so important for brands to have their eye on the horizon and in their own way be a customer experience futurist, talking to their customers every single week. And one of the things our listeners can do is look at your calendar. Does your calendar have the word customer in it? It should, because every day you should be speaking to at least one customer about what's happening in their life and how you can rise to the occasion to support them in what they're going through, because everyone's going through a lot right now.
So do you think then this ends up having a longer-term impact in some of these areas on companies as we move forward? I mean, obviously the needle has moved on the expectations of the consumer. So you would think that would, have somewhat of a trickle-down effect on companies and what they are going to have to factor in over the next couple of decades.
I think companies can do one thing better. They can be more data-focused. So instead of assuming what customers want and what's good for them, they can ask customers. They can look at the data. They can use survey feedback. They can look at unstructured data. They can use AI to comb through their millions and millions of data bytes. So by being more data focused, you'll understand what is actually happening with your customers, not what you assume is happening. And that's why the company of the future, the senior executives, are in the contact centers. in the call centers. They're in the data. They're talking to customers. They're not above it, just staying in the ivory tower, so to speak. And so being data focused is the only way to run a business today, to understand what is actually happening with our customers and how do we understand why do they buy from us, and how can we continue to add value in their life so we remain relevant in their life, in their wallet, and they tell their friends that we are a trustworthy company to do business with.
But it means also in the short term, as we're still talking about inflation and the Federal Reserve and some of these elements going on, that really it's a time where a lot of these companies are, as you say, really having to focus on that relationship, keep it as strong as they possibly can until maybe we get to a point where the wallets aren't as constrained as they've been over the last several months.
Yeah, I mean, this is a blip in history. We have to sort of wait for the storm to pass. The economy will eventually recover because we can't go down any farther than we are right now. And yes, the companies need to remember what is happening now because it can happen again. And everyone says, oh, yes, there's so much uncertainty. We need to prepare for an uncertain world. To me, the answer is very simple. It lies in the relationship with the customer. Brands are afraid of losing customers, and they should be. But the commitment to the reality of your relationship with your customer will save you. So understanding what's happening with them all the time, how can you be a support to them? And if your products aren't selling, then get curious about why they're not selling. What is selling? Yeah. How can you pivot your product or service to be relevant in a customer's life that's going through a lot right now? Again, eventually the economy will rebound because we can't go farther south than we're at right now. But for now, it's uncomfortable. There's a lot of problems in the economy and the banking system. A lot of companies made some really bad decisions recently, like Silicon Valley Bank, that ultimately hurt their business and hurt the culture overall because people are scared because these entities they thought they could trust proved to be untrustworthy. Whoever thought that you're an entrepreneur, you have money with Silicon Valley Bank, you go to check your account, you can't even get into your account, your money has disappeared, and the press is telling you, oh, sorry, you're not going to get your money back. That money is gone, and your business is gone. And surprise, you also can't get any more money because of the credit crunch. And so we have to rebuild trust in the economy, in the banking and financial structures that support this country. And hopefully things will get better very soon.
Blake, pleasure to have you with us today. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
Blake Morgan, customer experience futurist and columnist with Forbes.